Alright you guys, welcome to part 4 of What If Ash Won the Sinnoh League. This one has a lot going on in it, and I really want you to pay close attention to the details, because if you watch all the way to the end, I'm going to finally answer one of the biggest questions that everybody has been asking me. I hope you enjoy. This video is dedicated in loving memory of my grandfather, Arnold Dickinson. Just know that wherever you are, you're in a better place, but you will still be missed and loved deeply. Now, we're heading back to school with classroom training. While this episode isn't super important, there are a couple of things here that happen that we need to cover. First is the group arrives in Snow Point City. We find out that Zoe, one of Dawn's contestant rivals, is from the icy town of the north. It is here that we are also introduced to Candace, the leader of the Snow Point Gym. We also learn that Dawn isn't the only one struggling with her contest battles, as Zoe has only been able to capture 4 ribbons for the Sinnoh Grand Festival. This all leads to a confrontation with Team Rocket that allows Ash to see Candace's ace Pokemon, Abomasnow. But Candace also gets a chance to see Ash's unpredictable battle style. The episode ends with us leading right into Ash's next gym battle and the very next episode. Sliding into 7th. With Ash challenging for his 7th gym badge, this is a very important battle. This battle will be a 4-on-4. Ash has his work cut out here, and so do we, as Ash is missing 2 Pokemon he used in the original battle, Grotle and Gliscor. The battle would normally start with Grotle versus Sneasel. Here, I think we can go with the newly caught Snover. It's still a grass type, but it's also part ice. I think Ash would use it to feel out Candace's battle style. The battle will go much like in the original, with Sneasel looking like it has the upper hand with its speed. But the one thing that Ash's Snover has going for it is, it's a prankster. And we see Ash take advantage of this with its moveset by using Grass Knot to trip up Sneasel, then Grass Whistle to put Sneasel to sleep. Now we didn't learn all of Snover's moves in the episode that he caught it, and since it's a pseudo replacement for Grotle, I think we can give it Rock Climb here, allowing it to close out the battle, giving Ash the lead in the same way that he did with Grotle in the original. Ash would then recall Snover for later. Candace would send in Medicham for her second choice, while Ash would stick to his regular choice of Staraptor. While this battle starts off in Candace's favor, it will still end like the original, with Staraptor ending Medicham with the Brave Bird, giving Ash a 2-0 lead. Ash then recalls his bird of prey for later use. Candace then sends in her 3rd Pokemon, Snover. Now here, we have to make our next change. Normally Ash would have used Gliscor here, but since he doesn't have it, we're going to go with another decision. He spent some time mulling it over, but in the end, chooses to go with Gabite, which I think is for the same reason, as he chose Gliscor in the anime because it knows Fire Fang. Now, there is something I want to point out here. Ever since the contact Gabite had with Cynthia's Garchomp, it's been working on its ability to fly. In this battle, it and Ash do their best to use this ability, but as they still haven't mastered it, and Gabite being at a massive disadvantage here, it ends up losing to Snover, though it does get a few moves in before doing so. Ash then uses this time to pull out all the stops, as he sends in our next change, Monferno. Now in the original, this was Chimchar, and it did have some trouble against Snover, but here, Monferno cleans house pretty quickly, with a Mach Punch ending Snover in one hit. This leads to Candace sending in her final Pokemon, Abomasnow. Normally, Ash would have Chimchar fight with one Flamethrower, but then recall it when it loses to a Blizzard. But here, Ash will keep Monferno in, as he feels there's no way they could lose to a Grass Ice type. But that is where they're solely mistaken. The battle between the aces of the 2 trainers heats up quickly, with Monferno being pushed harder and harder by the Treesicle. It's actually on the losing end. Candace may be a young gym leader, but she knows her type disadvantages, and she's able to counter every move our 2 heroes have made. Then, it happens. Monferno snaps when its endurance gets too low, sending it into another blaze-fueled rage. It again rampages, causing damage to everything in sight. Ash is forced to interfere when it won't respond to his calls, but this time, it won't be the same. Monferno actually turns on its trainer, attacking Ash with its strongest Flame Wheel. The only thing that saves him is Pikachu intercepts it with the Volt Tackle, causing a burst of energy to emanate from the 2. When the dust settles, Monferno is down. Pikachu seems to be alright, just a little shaken from the encounter. Ash is going to have to be on guard with this Blaze ability, because it seems like it's getting more and more out of control the more intense the battles with Monferno get. But he can't worry about that now, because this is going to leave Candace with one question. Does she allow the battle to continue, or does she cancel it due to what transpired? Ultimately, she and Ash agree they can continue the battle, as he still has 2 Pokemon, and Abomasnow didn't take any damage from Monferno's outburst. Now Ash has to beat this tank with just Staraptor and Snover left. Ash chooses to go with Snover first. This battle is a pretty interesting one, as you have Ash's Trickster versus Candace's Serious Snowman. Abomasnow proves to be a powerhouse with moves like Blizzard and Hammer Arm, which ultimately do win the tiny tree of of tricks. This leaves Ash with just one Pokemon, as he sends back in Staraptor. Luckily, Ash has speed on his side, and after dealing with both Monferno and Snover, Abomasnow is pretty winded, unable to keep up with the King of the Skies. But Ash can't get in to land a clear hit, so he decides to create an opening by ordering a Brave Bird, allowing Staraptor to push through a Hammer Arm and land a close combat, knocking out Abomasnow and earning Ash his 7th Sinnoh Gym Badge, the Icicle Badge. Now with his 7th badge firmly in his grasp, Ash celebrates, but his celebration is interrupted by the arrival of his greatest rival in Sinnoh, Paul. This leads us into the very next episode, A Pyramiding Rage. Paul is in Snow Point City to earn his next badge by battling Candace, but after learning of Ash's win and how he'll have to wait until the next day for his battle, Paul just chooses to be a dick to everyone at the Pokemon Center until his battle. With the next day finally arriving, Paul sets out for his gym battle when he's stopped by his brother Reggie. Ash and the group join him to say hi to Reggie when the world is shaken by an enormous building flying overhead. This is why this episode is important, because it is at this moment that Paul learns that Ash was able to beat Pyramid King Brandon. After a brief explanation of the battle frontier, what a frontier brain is, and how Reggie never beat Brandon, the strongest of the Kanto frontier brains, our group arrives at the battle pyramid. Right away, things are intense, as Paul wastes no time in challenging Brandon to a battle, declaring that he will do what Reggie couldn't. Brandon accepts and allows the small crowd to watch on as the demonstration unfolds. Now, to keep this short, we won't need to focus much on the battle, so I'll just say it. Paul loses in the same way his brother did, without even taking out a single Pokemon of Brandon's. Let's not forget this was a 6-on-6 battle too, but what is important here is the backstory we get on Paul. What we find out is Paul thinks that his brother gave up too easily after his loss to Brandon. Watching his brother lose so shamefully is what shaped Paul's views on how to raise Pokemon, battling with only strength as a true measure of success. Though Paul still lost, he aims to challenge Candace. But before he can leave, Reggie has his best mic drop moment of the entire series, when he asks Paul if he would battle Ash in a full 6-on-6 battle. Brandon seconds this motion, with Reggie setting a date in 10 days at Lake Acuity. Paul and Ash agree, allowing us to head into the very next episode. Pillars of Friendship. This is where we find out why Brandon is in Sinnoh, the Snow Point Temple, and more importantly, the contents of the temple, Regigigas. It is here that we learn Pokemon Hunter Jay has entered the temple to steal Regigigas. But when she awakens it, something is wrong. Angered by the way it was awakened, Regigigas goes on a rampage. Brandon tries to catch Regigigas, but Jay interferes, stopping him. This was a mistake, as we learn that Regigigas can control the other 3 Regis, and it uses them to defend and attack for it, so it can continue its rampage across the forest of Snow Point City. After a selfless sacrifice from Brandon, Regigigas finally returns to its senses, scaring off Jay and healing Brandon and the other Regis. Then, it returns to its crystal state, to slumber once more. It is here that the episode ends with a very important revelation. Brandon has decided to remain in Sinnoh to rebuild the temple and protect Regigigas from any future attacks. Now it's all aboard for Frozen on their tracks. This episode really isn't important, but it does introduce a somewhat important character, Looker, a member of the International Police who will be important much later. Now that we got that useless piece of trivia out of the way, let's head into a much awaited part that people have been waiting for my outtake on. The 2-parter, Pedal to the Metal and Evolving Strategies. The second most important battle between Ash and Paul in the series. And with all the changes we have made to Ash's team, this will be a different beast altogether. This will be a 6-on-6 battle, and in the normal timeline, Paul set up his strategy to reflect on what he knew about Ash and his team, which never changed. Ash always had the same 6 Pokemon to this point, but in our version, Ash has caught more of a team of 6, but also has a choice for a few surprises, as Paul don't know about Spiritomb or his newest catch, Snover. This is also where we start to see Ash reflect on his journey to this point. Ash is going to make a decision that will shape the outcome of this battle, so let's get into it. Ash wins the coin toss, so he gets his first choice, and normally he would leave with Buizel, but in this timeline, Ash just skips sending him Buizel and chooses to go with something else, Gabite. So Paul answers it with Torterra, just like in the original. This battle plays out much like the original, with Torterra and Gliscor. Gabite gets some good hits in weakening Torterra, but it gets caught in a Giga Drain, siphoning off Gabite's health to replenish its own. Gabite is able to use Fire Fang to escape, but Ash recalls it when it becomes clear that the crunch Torterra used on its leg is affecting its ability to stand. Ash then chooses to send in Staraptor. He then calls for a Brave Bird, which is immediately met with a Stone Edge, knocking the bird to the ground. Paul then recalls Torterra as it's starting to get weak. This is where we see our first change from Paul. Normally, he would have used Weavile here, and it would lose to Staraptor, but here, I'm going going to change it to Nidoking. This gives Paul an advantage in this battle with the move Thunderbolt. Ash chooses to leave in Staraptor for now, and the battle starts. What follows is a showing of Staraptor's speed, allowing it to evade most of Nidoking's attacks. But this is what Paul wanted, as Ash gets a little overconfident, ordering a Brave Bird, which is met with a poison jab from Nidoking, causing a poison on contact. Ash, now seeing that he's on the losing end, recalls Staraptor for later. Paul then follows suit. Here's where we'll see our next change, as Paul would have sent in Honchkrow, but since it lost to Ash's Staraptor, he elected to leave it out of this battle in favor for his Hariyama. Ash, knowing that this is a mono power, chooses to match it with speed by sending in Pikachu. At first, things are going good for Ash, but when Hariyama tanks a Volt Tackle, giving Paul the opening he needs to use a cross chop on the electric mouse, it is one-shotted in the process. But it does leave Hariyama with the paralysis due to Pikachu's static. Paul then chooses to leave in Hariyama, much to Ash's surprise, but he intends to take advantage of this mistake of Paul's by sending back in Staraptor. Ash knows he's on a clock. The poison is causing damage every second, but he aims to use type advantage and speed to end this. Ash then orders an Aerial Ace and backs it with the Quick Attack, tapping into previous battles from his past. But this is when we learn why Paul left in Hariyama. Its ability Guts. Hariyama doesn't need speed when its power is amplified through the roof. Paul orders an Arm Thrust to counter the Aerial Ace, but the static slows it down just enough for Staraptor to inch past with the increased speed from Quick Attack and land a direct hit, knocking out Hariyama. Ash then immediately recalls Staraptor, as any more timeout will cause the poison to claim his second team member. Paul then decides to send in his next Pokemon, Magmortar. This then prompts Ash to send in his next Pokemon, one that Paul is all too familiar with, Bastiodon. Paul has been waiting for this one. He was hoping that it would be up next. This battle is one that Paul plays very carefully, as he knows full well of what this thing can do, but Ash won't let Paul take this victory from him. After seeing Flash Cannon from Byron at the Canalave Gym, Ash spent the last 10 days working on it with Bastiodon to turn his Metal Burst into the much more powerful move, and it's a perfect counter to the Flamethrower of Magmortar. Though Magmortar does prove to be faster than Bastiodon, in the end, Ash and its powerful defense is enough to outlast Paul's offense when Bastiodon lands an Iron Head, knocking out Magmortar. But this triggers its ability, leaving Bastiodon with a burn. Paul then sends in his next Pokemon, Ursaring. This battle proves to be much more in Paul's favor, as Ursaring's arsenal of fighting type moves, combined with the damage and the burn on Bastiodon, is enough to put down the prehistoric Goliath. Ash then chooses to send back in Staraptor in hopes of ending this battle before it will fall to the poison. So he orders a Steel Wing, but it is easily overpowered with Ursaring using its hammer arm, knocking it out. Paul chooses to stick with Ursaring here, as it is proved to have great endurance. This is where Ash goes with his ace in the hole, and he sends in Spiritomb. This completely catches Paul off guard. The fact that Ash has one of these wasn't in his plans, and he doesn't have any direct counter to it. But there seems to be a problem with it. You guys remember in the last part when I said that Ash may regret sending Spiritomb away? Well, here's why. It still hasn't gotten over its jealousy of Pikachu, and by sending it away without resolving this conflict, Spiritomb feels betrayed. Now it's like Ash never made any progress with it. The Keystone Pokemon won't respond to Ash. There's no movement. As a matter of fact, it just retreats inside of its Keystone, refusing to battle. This in the end costs Ash a Pokemon, as Spiritomb is declared unfit to battle due to its refusal to do so. This leaves Ash with just two Pokemon, one that is battle worn and one that is fresh, so Ash chooses to go with Monferno. Paul then recalls Ursaring for Electabuzz. This looks like we're going to get the battle that we've been waiting for. Ash then calls for a Flamethrower, but it is stopped by Protect. Then Paul calls for a Light Screen, followed by recalling Electabuzz, shocking both Ash and Monferno. Paul then sends back in Torterra. Ash tries a Flamethrower, but Torterra is protected by the Light Screen, and Monferno is hit with a Stone Edge, which seems to have hit with a critical. Paul then recalls Torterra and sends back in Ursaring. Ash chooses to leave in Monferno. Ash uses the fact that Ursaring is battle worn to his advantage, hitting with Mach Punch and Flamethrower. This allows the Fire Chimp to end Ursaring. Paul then finally concedes and gives us the battle we want by sending back in Electabuzz. This battle is just like in the anime, with both the two trading blows seemingly evenly matched. Ash even shows Paul the counter shield, which Ash may regret later. Then Monferno catches a static from Electabuzz. With the paralysis setting in, it seems that the battle has turned, until Monferno starts to surge with flames once again. This triggers fear and hesitation in Ash. But this isn't Blaze. Monferno seems to be in control. It's the determination to not be beaten, pushing through. Ash calls to Monferno and it looks back at him, giving him a thumbs up. Ash knows that Monferno is in control at this time. So, with one last move, he orders a Mach Punch, and Paul counters with a Thunder Punch. The two moves collide in an explosion of energy. When the dust finally settles, both are left standing, but it is clear that Monferno took more damage from the attack as it falls in defeat. Ash recalls it, knowing his back's to the wall. Monferno put in a lot of work. Electabuzz looks like it's on its last leg as well, but Paul still has 3 Pokemon in total. Ash digs in, knowing that it's his only hope, so he sends back in Gabite. Not wanting to give Ash a free win, Paul recalls Electabuzz, sending back in Nidoking. This battle will be a rough one, but they waste no time in getting started. Nidoking proves to be a force to be reckoned with, but Gabite won't be put down so easily, managing to barely knock out Nidoking with a Dragon Claw. Paul then sends back in his Pokemon that he started the battle with, Torterra. Ash looks on. He knows that Torterra is Paul's strongest Pokemon. It was his first Pokemon, but Ash has battled it many times. He knows that he can't get in close, so he orders a Draco Meteor to rain down on Torterra, who just takes it. What is Paul thinking, Ash wonders, when he hears 2 words uttered from Paul's mouth. Frenzy Plant. Torterra rages and stomps the ground as tree roots surge from it in the direction of Gabite, but the leg injury it sustained in their first conflict prevents it from moving in time, and the Frenzy Plant swallows Gabite, bringing the battle to a close. Ash recalls Gabite, dropping to his knees. Paul simply walks away, with Reggie bidding them all farewell. "You know, Ash almost beat you," Reggie says. "Almost isn't a win," Paul replies as they head to the Pokemon Center. Later that day, Ash finds his way to the Pokemon Center as well, but Paul and Reggie have already moved on. Ash and his Pokemon mope around for a few days. They were so close, but Paul just had the better strategy. Not only that, but Spiritomb. What's its problem? Why wouldn't it battle? All questions that Ash must answer. But he and most of his Pokemon bounce back, and Ash decides to send Bastiodon back to Professor Oak for Snover, and he decides to send Staraptor for Buizel. Ash has decided until he can figure out what's up with Spiritomb, he's going to keep it with them. So, with this long battle behind us, we can finally move on to our next part. Gateway to Rune. This episode is important for only one reason. We find our heroes back at Mount Coronet, and it is here we have our next encounter with Team Galactic and Looker. They are looking for Spear Pillar, but keep running into dead ends. With another failure, Team Galactic moves on, so we can too, which is our very next episode, Dressed for Just Success. It is here in Lilypad Town Dawn hopes of ending her losing streak. We also see that anytime James gets a chance to cross-dress, he will do so, as he impersonates Jessie because she comes down sick, going on to win the entire contest in her absence. However, Dawn seems to be okay with this loss. She is upset, but she seems to have learned to roll with the punches. Ash had considered entering the contest with Spiritomb, but it's been unresponsive ever since the battle with Paul. So he just sat there on the sidelines hoping that it would come out of the Keystone, but he didn't get any response. So with that, we can hop right into the next episode, which is a 3-parter in unlocking the red chain of events, the needs of the 3, and the battle finale of Legends. In the first part, we see Team Galactic's plans start to unfold. It's revealed that the meteorites they stole from Veilstone City were turned into the red chain. They have finally found the gateway to Spear Pillar, and for some reason, the Lake Guardians have bonded with Ash, Brock, and Dawn, without them even knowing. The gang meet up with Looker, only for all the data in the International Police Station to be erased that they had on Team Galactic. Then in the second part, it starts off with a dream that Ash, Dawn, and Brock are all having at the same time. The Lake Trio appear to them, and they are being chased by an unknown force. When they awake, they all realize that they all had the same dream. It is at this point that Pokemon Hunter J makes herself known by unleashing a galactic bomb in Lake Valor to open up a rift in space and time to summon Azelf. Ash, Brock, and Dawn all feel the stress that Azelf is in, calling Professor Thornberry only to have their worries confirmed. Jay is then successful in capturing the Lake Guardian, summoning the other 2, Uxie and Mesprit, which she is also successful in capturing, but she is soon met with a tragic end as a future sight hits her ship, dropping it to the bottom of the lake, causing an explosion, seemingly ending her for good. It is at this point Cynthia shows up and takes the kids to meet Looker on Mount Coronet. She explains that in order to help the Lake Trio, they will have to stop Team Galactic. Since Ash and his friends are linked to them, they must be the ones to end this. During the ride, Cynthia talks to the group about what she's been up to. As she begins to tell them about what she found in Alamos Town, our heroes are teleported away to the shock of Cynthia. They end up on the base of Team Galactic. This is when Ash and friends find out that Cyrus is the leader of Team Galactic. He tells them of his plans to create a new world and how they should give up their emotions as they only cause pain. But Ash, Brock, and Dawn are angry over the way they have treated the Lake Guardians. It is at this point a battle is unleashed inside the base as our heroes dash for the 3 Lake Guardians. This brings us to the final part, where it is revealed that even though they can get to the Lake Trio, Cyrus has them under complete control with the power of the Red Train. He orders the grunts to hold the kids captive as he prepares to summon Palkia and Dialga. Just as Cyrus begins his descent into the gateway of Spear Pillar, the champion of champions shows up to free Ash, Looker, and the rest of the captives. Now, for the changes that we have to make in this part. In our time, Cyrus still seeks to create a new world. He aims to do this with the power of Dialga and Palkia, but here he has acquired one more item that will complete the trio of the Adamant and Lustrous Orbs, the Greasius Orb. Also, we see a very familiar device that was created based upon the tech found in the ship of Zero. Now, Cyrus has everything he needs. He aims to summon the 3rd member of the creation trio, Giratina. You see, after the events of the Sky Warrior, Cyrus made a trek to the Distortion World, where Giratina lives. He spent time studying it, learning from it. It was while he was there, Cyrus discovered the missing piece to his puzzle, the Greasius Orb. Now, with all 3 of the beings under his control, Cyrus has ultimate power, enough to eliminate this grief-stricken world from existence and create a new one in his image with his beliefs. While in the Distortion World, he realized that the new world would never come to pass because it needed a Distortion World of its own. Now, it will. From here, the events continue as normal, but the 3rd pillar will be in use. Even after Ash, Brock, and Dawn free the Lake Trio, they still can't break the power that Cyrus holds over the creation trio. It is at this point that an all-out battle ensues. Ash uses Pikachu, Gabite, and Monferno. Brock uses Croagunk, and Dawn uses Piplup, and Cynthia uses Garchomp. They all attempt to try to break the oddly shaped rings around Palkia, Dialga, and Giratina. Cyrus orders the 3 to create a new universe and destroy this pathetic one in its place. All of his followers are happy that they get to go to this new world, but this is where Cyrus kills their hopes and dreams, when he reveals that he's the only one that's going to be in this new world, as they will only poison it. The group does what they can to break the connection between Cyrus and the creation trio, but the attacks of their Pokemon just aren't enough. It finally hits everyone. This is it. They can't stop it. Everyone is doomed. Just as Cyrus prepares to enter his new universe, a cry emanates from beyond the void. The strength of the shockwave is staggering. It shatters the rings on Palkia, Dialga, and Giratina, stopping the creation of the new universe. Cyrus won't let it end like this, and he prepares to enter his prize that he's waited his whole life for. But as he looks into the void, it looks back, and Cyrus flinches, causing the doorway to close before he can enter it. Stunned into silence that all of his life's plans have come to nothing, Cyrus drops to his knees. This is when Looker enters, looking to take Team Galactic and their leader in, but Charon thought something like this could happen, so he had a backup plan. With the flip of a switch and a flash, Team Galactic is gone. What? How? Looker exclaims. Warp tech from Slipco, Cynthia answers. It was stolen when a boat from Kanto docked in Snow Point City for repairs. I thought Team Galactic was behind it, but I wasn't sure. With nothing left to do, the group disbands from Spear Pillar as Palkia, Dialga, and Giratina return to their respective worlds, confused about what just happened. Back at the Pokemon Center in Hardhome City, Cynthia tells our heroes it's not over. Though the Lake Guardians have returned to their dimensions, what I found in Alamos Town concerns me. I think I know why Palkia hid there from Dialga, taking the entire town to another dimension, but I need more information to be sure. Ash then tells Cynthia he thinks she is right. When that cry from beyond the void came, I felt something due to the connections with the Lake Trio. Me too, Brock and Dawn chime in. Really? What was it? Cynthia asks. Ash looks at her with a seriousness she's never seen from him before and utters one single word: fear. This chills Cynthia to her core. Is what she found right? Is there a being out there more powerful than Palkia, Dialga, and Giratina? Well, with nothing else to go on, our group parts ways, heading to the site of Dawn's next contest and Ash's next gym battle. But not before making a quick stop. After all the excitement that's been happening, Dawn gets a call from her mom to come home to Twinleaf Town for the Twinleaf Festival. Most of this is just useless filler, but there's one thing here we will use. It is here that we meet Barry again, and we find out that his dad is here, a super strong trainer named Palmer. When Ash finally has a chance to meet him, he learns that he is actually a frontier brain for the Sinnoh region. Ash, remembering how strong the Kanto battle frontier brains were, challenges Palmer to a battle. Citing his credentials of his victory in Kanto, Kanto as a reason why they should have the battle. Palmer, intrigued by this young boy, accepts. Now here's where we're going to have to make a change. In the normal timeline, Ash used Grottle and lost, but here he doesn't have it, so he will use Gabite. Let me tell you, the battle here is more intense as well. Palmer's Rhyperior takes no prisoners. I always felt that Palmer held back in the original battle with Ash, but here all the stops are gone. Gabite is severely outmatched, but the dragon doesn't give up. It pushes back with each battle-ending blow that it takes, testing the lengths of its own endurance. Then it comes to the final move. Palmer orders a Rock Wrecker. Ash orders Gabite to counter with the Dragon Claw, which is barely able to hold back, but you can see Gabite starting to slip. The intensity of this battle is what Gabite was in need of. With the last bit of its strength, it cries louder than Ash has ever heard before, as the land shark starts to glow. That's right, Ash is now in possession of a Garchomp. But this masterpiece of evolution is short-lived, as even with its new strength, Garchomp still can't hold back the attack, and it is leveled to the ground by Rhyperior. Palmer tells Ash that he wasn't holding back, and he hopes that he has the opportunity to battle him again, because he can see that Ash has great potential. Of course, he would want to do it when his Garchomp is at full strength. He knows that next time, the odds may not be in his favor. So with Ash's newest evolution, we can move on to our next adventure, which is mastering current events. This episode is a very important one. Remember when I said that Gabite was having trouble with its flying? Well, it hasn't gotten any better as a Garchomp. This is where Ash meets the Air Battle Master and his Scizor. In the original timeline, Ash used Gliscor to battle it, but here we will see Garchomp do that. This eventually ends up with it learning Giga Impact. Then, a sad turn of events. Ash chooses to leave Garchomp with the Air Battle Master so it can learn and train in his very special air battling strategy. So, with an opening on his team, Ash chooses to bring Staraptor back onto his main 6 as we move on to the next set of events. This also starts our adventure in the 4th season of Gen 4, Sinnoh League Victors. What follows are some filler. Dawn enters a contest and loses again. Zoe wins her 5th ribbon, locking in her place at the Grand Festival. Dawn is now severely behind. This is the motivation she needed though, as she is now lasered focused on getting her last 2 ribbons. Then we head into Short Into the Punch. This episode we see Ash come across a trainer and his Mr. Mime. They do have a battle, and that's not really important, but what is important here is after the battle, Ash and Buizel embark on some training that proves very fruitful, as Buizel learns a new move through its specialty training, Ice Punch. This will allow us to move on to our next set of events. Our heroes finally make their way to Daybreak Town. It is here we see Dawn enter the next contest. He attempts to use Spiritomb, but the purple ghost is still ignoring its trainer, leaving just Dawn in the contest. She ends up in the finals with her Mamoswine and Cyndaquil. She takes the win as she is able to perfect her Fire Ice combo. This gives Dawn her 4th ribbon. Now to address the problem that we've created for ourselves. This was supposed to be Dawn's 5th ribbon, so now we have to create a way for her to find and earn that final ribbon. But don't worry, I have something in mind for that. A little while later, of course. Now, we hit a very important episode, fighting Ire with fire. This one is short, but sweet. Ash runs back into Barry, who has somehow managed to get ahead of Ash and earned all 8 badges. He thinks the Sunny Shorten Gym is the greatest thing since sliced bread. But then Ash runs into Paul, who has a very different opinion about the Sunny Shore Gym, and it's not a positive one for sure. The episode ends with Team Rocket attacking. Now, normally, we would see Monferno evolve here, but I'm actually going to hold off on that for a while longer. So, we move on to the most important and final leg of this part. Flint sparks the fire. Here, our heroes finally arrive in Sunny Shore City, but when Ash attempts to challenge the gym, he is just given a badge. Angered by this, Ash demands to see the gym leader. This is where we meet Voknor, the supposed most powerful gym leader in all of Sinnoh, but he has lost his thrill for battle. Then, our second important development of this episode happens as Ash is introduced to Flint of the Sinnoh Elite Four, the 3rd member we've met so far. He is here because his best friend Voknor, who he grew up with, isn't his normal self. See, Flint then makes a suggestion that he and Ash have a battle instead. Ash, always eager to battle a member of the Elite Four, accepts, telling Voknor he will show him what battling is truly about. Flint sends in his Infernape. Ash chooses to go with Buizel at first, but it is easily dealt. Then, Ash tries Monferno. It does give an actual decent fight against its evolution counterpart, even getting to the point of activating Blaze, forcing Flint to actually take the battle seriously, finally getting Voknor's attention. But Monferno eventually falls to Infernape as well. Ash then sends in Pikachu. It is here that Voknor finally gets invested into the battle. Seeing Ash and Pikachu's determination to win, even when they are clearly outclassed, reminds Voknor of the days when he was a kid and he had the whole world ahead of him. In the end, Ash does lose, but Voknor finally agrees to have a battle with him. With only one request, Voknor asks Ash to wait 2 months so that he can do some side training, as he's a little out of practice. Ash agrees to these terms, since if he can't win this battle, then he doesn't want the badge. So the episode ends with Ash now deciding what he will do to train over the next 8 weeks. Now, here is the pivotal moment that you've all been waiting for. The question that has ravaged my comment sections since the first video in this series. How will Ash win this league? I've heard some good suggestions, like bring back Charizard, Squirtle, and his other Pokemon in training. Oh, and there's also just get rid of Tobias. He's just there to cause Ash to lose anyway. Stuff like that. While some of those are good suggestions, and others I feel are really lazy, I think there are far bigger problems that had to have been addressed with Ash's core Sinnoh team. So let's list them. The type variety. I've changed several members to eliminate the overwhelming ice weakness. I've given him key members early, like Buizel and Garchomp, so Ash would have more time to work with them. We've increased his training in contests to help him with his battle styles. And finally, we've given him a set of really well-rounded Pokemon with type diversity, even including new additions like Bastiodon, Spiritomb, and Snover. We are actually only one more part away to when the league actually hits, and I have to ask a question. Is Ash truly ready to face the Sinnoh Elite Four and Cynthia? More importantly, could he realistically beat a trainer that had a full team of legendary Pokemon? The honest answer I have to say is a big, fat no. So, with Ash so close to the end of the journey, how can we make him ready? After weeks of thinking about this, I only have one answer for you. I will see you in the battle frontier. If you enjoyed the video, please drop a like for the YouTube algorithm. Also, don't forget to subscribe. And if you want to interact more with me, don't forget to join the Discord and follow me on Twitter. And if you want to support me any further, head over to my Patreon. Just $5 a month gets you 1 week early access to all of my videos. These awesome people have already donated, so I can continue to bring you the content that you love. The links for all of these are in the description below. Anyway, I'm Rune Charizard, and I'll see you in the next video.